So in today's lesson, we are going to be learning about basic file streaming operations. Now, in Java, the basic file streaming is actually pretty easy. And we're going to start off with just writing to a file. So what we can do is, in order to write to a file, the first thing we have to do is we have to create a PrintWriter object. Okay, so there's a PrintWriter, and I'm going to call it PW for PrintWriter. And we're going to say it's equal to a new PrintWriter. Okay, like that. Now, the PrintWriter is going to need a file to write to, so we have to make a file object to associate the PrintWriter with. So we're going to say file, and I'm just going to call it outFile, but really you can call it whatever you want, is equal to new file, and we have to give that file a name. Now, if the file doesn't exist already, then Java will create the file for you, but if it exists already, it will just open the existing file. Now, keep in mind, when it opens the existing file, it doesn't amend the file, or it doesn't append to the file. It just actually erases the file and writes it anew. So if there's data in there from before, and you just open it like this to write, then your old data will be gone. All right, so here we have file, outFile is equal to new file, and I'm just going to call mine like output.txt. Now, you can really call it anything you want, but what I would suggest is you always have the txt extension for plain text files, right? Because that tells the computer to open it in Notepad, and it can also open it in the console very easily. Plain text files are just the ASCII text characters, and that's it. There's no metadata, no formatting data, or anything like that. All right, now we are getting these red lines here because Eclipse doesn't know what a file in a PrintWriter is, so we can just go Control-Shift-O to automatically import them, right? And here, where it's saying new PrintWriter, we're going to associate the PrintWriter now with the out file that we just created. Now, when we go to open the file, what could happen is that you could get a number of different exceptions or errors, like maybe the file's not found or you don't have permission to open the file. So you have to tell the computer what to do with that if that happens. So we just tell the computer that we are going to throw our exceptions, or throw exception. So if an exception is generated here, we're just going to throw it and crash, and just basically crash the program. All right. There's other things you could do, like for instance, you could catch it, and then later on, if you wanted to, you could redirect the program to open a different file or whatever. Okay, but we are not doing that today. Okay, so once I have this, what we would do is, for instance, if I wanted to write to the screen, I would say sysout. Okay, so system out print line. Okay, like so. And you can just say something like, hello world. All right, and then if I were to run this, you'd see it just says hello world on my console. Well, that's because system out is printing to the console. So to change this, all we do is say PW. Now we're telling the PrintWriter to do that operation. And when we run it, you'll see nothing on the console. That's because it wrote it to a file. Okay, now, nothing is actually written to the file until we close that file. So we're going to say pw.close, and that's it. So now we run the program. Now, where's the file? Well, it's actually in the project folder, but you can't see it in the project folder because we haven't refreshed this. So you can either press F5 or you can right-click here, right-click, and choose refresh. Okay, and there's my output.txt. And when I open it, there it says hello world. And that's really all there is for writing to files, right? Like, that's the very basics of writing to files. Now, I'm just going to comment this. So, file writing basics. Okay, now if I wanted to read from a file, let's do this. File reading basics. It's actually pretty much the same type of thing. We are going to first create the file to read from. Okay, so file, and this one I'm going to call in file. Again, you can call it whatever you want, is equal to new file. And I'm going to call this one data.txt. All right, like so, data.txt. Now, when you're creating a file in this way, the computer won't automatically create one for reading because it doesn't make sense it would create an empty file for reading. All right, so let's see. Now, normally if we would read something from the keyboard, we would just say scanner input is equal to new scanner. and we'd say system.in, system.in, like this. Okay, and that's because system.in is referring basically to the keyboard. So what we're going to do is we are just going to redirect that to the in file. All right, now we have to import the scanner, so Control-Shift-O, we import the scanner, and now we're reading from this file, data.txt, but there is no data.txt file. All right, so what we have to do is we can go to File, New, File, New, File, okay, and we're just going to create it in our example here, or I guess we'll create it in the source folder. Oh, name can't be empty, of course. We'll call it data.txt, like so. Just create it in the project folder. There we go. And so you can see here, there's the data.txt file. All right, and it's empty. So I'm just gonna put something in there, like we'll say like, please subscribe to my channel. All right, so something like that. You actually don't have to subscribe to the channel. I'm just joking. But anyway, so we go here. I undid that. So there we go. Okay, so now we have this output text, and when we go to read from this file, we can just say for instance, string input, or we can't say input because it's already named, the scanner's already named input. We'll just say word is equal to input dot next. All right, and then we can echo this back out. So we'll say output the word, and here we go. It says please. All right, and the reason why it's saying please is because the first word is please. If I were to repeat this, it would say subscribe next. Okay, so if I did this again, this is a weird way of formatting this. All right, so see, please subscribe. Now, if that's not all it, okay, so I guess I should explain here. Let's say, for instance, it wasn't all like separated by spaces. Let's say it was in 2 lines like this, right? It wasn't just all end lines. This would still work. And what basically the computer does is it uses either a space or an end line as a word delimiter. So it knows where the end of a word is by looking at a space or by looking for an end line. So if I were to run this now using the same code, okay, you can see it still works. Please subscribe. If you want to take a whole line, what you could do is you could actually just say input.next line. And so this first one will take the whole line, and the second one will just take one word. Okay, so here it says please subscribe to, and then this one just says my, because the first one is taking the whole word or the whole line, and the second one is just taking the first word. All right, now there's another thing that we can typically do with this is, okay, so you normally have to know how many things are in the file and what order they're in. If you want to import an integer, it's actually the same thing. If there's an integer value, you would just say int number is equal to whatever, and just, so int number is equal to input.next int, and that would work just the same way you would take it from a keyboard. All right. So what we're going to do though here is I'm going to just erase this, and typically what we're going to do is we're going to put this into a do while loop. Okay, so we're going to say, or a while, we'll just say while input.hasNext. Now what hasNext does is it looks inside the file and checks to see if there's actually something still in the file. All right, so, and if there is something still in the file, then it just keeps repeating this. And what this effect is that you'll just essentially keep reading and echoing what's in the file until it's done. All right, so there it goes. Please subscribe to my channel. And what happens here is like, so let's say you wanted to read every word in a file. You just put it into this do while or this while loop while input.hasNext, and you would be able to read all the words in the file. That is essentially the basics of file streaming. Okay, you just open up your data file. You can read using the scanner. So instead of directing the scanner to system in, you direct it to your in file. And you can write using a PrintWriter. Don't forget to close the PrintWriter at the end. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you want, you can like and subscribe. I always appreciate that. That's it. Have a great day.